what we'll be doing today.
Everybody look at the shirt. Shirt right here. It's sweet.
It's
cool.
beautiful.
I wish I had one.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt, and welcome back to another episode of People in the Room. We're a bit small today, so we're thinking of rebranding it. Call us the OGs or something like that, like some stupid gang or something like that from the 80s. Anyways, welcome back to People in the Room, a podcast dedicated to discussing Christianity in a casual and approachable way.
I'm Pastor Paul. I'm the digital outreach pastor here at Scott Lake Baptist Church.
I'm Matt. I'm an technical assistant at CEF and struggling through college right now.
And I am the teaching pastor at Scott Lake Baptist Church. John.
There we go. I was about to say, the name is kind of important there.
Yes.
He's also the senior pastor, too.
How many adjectives can we throw in front of that name, you think? Like, how many titles can we call you?
Awesome, super.
That's not what I mean.
Fabulous. Oh, those are adjectives.
Well, I mean, those are, but I'm talking about,
You mean titles?
Titles?
Isn't it adjectives that describe pastor, or am I thinking of...
Adjectives
I'm not thinking
describe
of, like,
nouns.
adverbs or something. Yeah, so it'd be like, what adjectives in the title can we use? Like, is senior... Could that
Senior
even be
would be an
considered an adjective?
Yes, it is an adjective.
Or is that just part of the senior pastor day? Is that just one thing?
I think senior is an adjective that modifies pastor, and together senior and pastor... Together, senior...
What was that?
That was my pitch pipe app that decided to randomly open itself.
Pitch pipe.
And... Yeah.
I have my phone on Do Not Disturb.
See, I will say too, this is the one time Paul has his phone on Do Not Disturb, and now it's your phone that just decided to just go off everything. Because I swear, there's so many times I'm sitting there just, like, listening through the podcast. Like, I'm editing it. And
like that. I'm just helping.
Thank you. No, it's like I'll be sitting there, like I'll have already edited, and what I normally do is I just kind of watch through. Mm-hmm. I've kind of gotten a bit lazy with that, and I'll just like start playing video games or something while listening to it in the background, though, because if I hear something off, I will know anyways. Like if I hear a full name dropped or something like that, I'm like, no, that can't be in there. But like, there's times where I'm just sitting there playing XCOM or something or whatever. I'm just playing my game, and all of a sudden I'll just hear like the bling bling or whatever the Samsung thing is.
Okay.
And I'm just like looking around, looking at my phone. I'm like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
What happened there? Did my ringtone go off or something?
My wife will have to wait.
It was Paul's ringtone.
I'm aware.
Now we got Paul trained to get his phone on Do Not Disturb.
I've got him trained now after aggressively glaring every single time it happens. But no, actually, I don't think anyone even like. I'd say I'm proud of us in the podcast for just not skipping a beat with that.
No.
The pitch pipe thing was funny, though, because that just got even louder over time.
Yeah. And we will do a little plug for barbershop singing.
Barbershop quartets.
We blow a pitch and start our song. Woo. Sometimes you don't have your pitch pipe with you. You have an app on your phone. It does the same thing.
Do you get scared when you don't have your pitch pipe with you?
It's harder to be on pitch. I'll tell you that much.
Are you tempted to grab somebody else's?
No, germs.
There.
Hey, that's a natural safeguard against it. I like that. I like it. All right. If you didn't notice by all the corny little jokes we're making, we're talking about temptation today.
Yes.
Also, if you have eyes and look at the screen, you can probably see that as well.
Temptation.
I mean, the font is a bit out there, though, to be fair. So, if you couldn't read it, I guess that's fine. But you should probably get that checked out or something. Just a thought. Is it bad to tell our viewers to get stuff checked out?
Well, if they can't see, that might be a good thing.
Yeah.
As long as they listen and hear. We don't have to have them see.
Yeah.
We don't have to have them see.
If you can't hear us and you're still watching this far, what are you doing?
Well, we do appreciate you, though.
We do, yes. Just, I don't feel like adding subtitles, so it might be a bit. I'm sorry, guys. I have college. Anyways. I think we're just going to jump right into it.
Yep.
We might as well.
All right. Since we're talking about temptation today, I think a great question to simply just start with is, what is temptation? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Awesome.
Because you've studied it most.
What is temptation? Well, temptation is perhaps an outside influence upon us, which causes us, because of our internal desires, to do something wrong. something we wouldn't normally do if that extra level of temptation wasn't pressing us.
So it's an outward force influencing our inner actions.
I think so. The example that I think is most prominent in Scripture is Jesus, who, when he was baptized, was driven by the Spirit out into the wilderness where he fasted for 40 days, and the devil appeared to him in that weakened state of Jesus being fasting for 40 days, and simply said, hey, why don't you turn those stones into bread?
And we'll get into the details of that in a bit.
Yeah, and so there was an outside influence, and Jesus was hungry. So that extreme hunger of Jesus, the devil thought he could maybe enter into a conversation with Jesus, and once the devil has got a conversation going with you, you're toast.
It's hard to get out of it. You know?
Pastor John, I also think that maybe just besides an outside influence, we can also have an inside influence too.
How so?
Well, here's what I mean. If we think about it, we look at it like this. Maybe somebody is trying to bully somebody because and they are using means, and they're not being told what to do by outside forces. They're just being told to, they're just being thought in their mind that, hey, if I bully this person or I do this, it might make me look cooler, or I might have more attention put onto me.
Okay, so there is,
or attention
in your description or in your scenario, there is an outside force wanting to fit in with the crowd. The crowd might be not accepting you or teasing you, and your desire is to be a part of the crowd, and the crowd might think you're cool if you bullied that kid.
Yeah, I would
Possibly,
agree. Yeah. I would think that's an outside influence, but I'm thinking one thing that it could be is like outside influences obviously don't have to be like physical things, like the devil himself appearing in front of Jesus being like, hey, about this. Obviously that, did happen, and stuff like that can happen where it's literal physical temptations, but also I think it can be a lot more like abstract ideas as well, such as just the idea of wanting to fit in. I'm not sure if that I don't know. I'm not necessarily sure if it really comes from within or if it's from the attitude of the people around you making you think you got to do something for them, because that's especially tough. Because I've noticed, like, as I get older, I care less and less about what the whatever cool crowd thinks, and there's not really a cool crowd anymore, you know, because people grow up and they realize, oh, that's dumb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We grow out of that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what I'm talking about, though, is I'm talking about younger kids, like maybe teenage kids or junior high kids. And, you know, the kids may not even be, a crowd around the kids might not, like, say, oh, hey, you have to go pick on so-and-so or this or that. But that person thinks, I'm trying to get attention, and so therefore that individual might pick on somebody because they feel like they're getting attention, and they think that...
Okay. Again, you have an inside motivation.
Right.
The kid wants attention. Then there's an outside opportunity pressing onto that kid. Maybe the culture is telling him, you're a loser and you need to...
Well, maybe he's not a... Maybe he is one of the coolest kids, or he's a cooler kid. Maybe he's not a loser. Maybe he is just a person who everybody thinks is cool or something, and he just feels like, now that I have to maybe stay cool, and it might be only in his own mind. I mean, how do we know that? Because I don't imagine that some of his friends might come and say, hey, you have to pick on these people now, or you have to do this.
Right, it may not be that explicit.
There's not really like a Mean Girls movie type initiation or something like that.
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, you want to hang with us? Kick the snot out of that guy.
If Jesus wasn't hungry and the devil randomly came up and said, hey, turn that stone to bread, what would be the temptation? Yeah, Jesus was extremely hungry, and the devil was trying to get him to do something.
Right.
I might say then that it's like an additional reason or just force that is contributing to the sin, the desire to sin, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if that's kind of exactly what you were saying or not, though.
Well, in the case of turning stone to bread, if you're starving, I don't see a lot of sin in that. But the idea of Satan was to get in Jesus' head and get Jesus to follow what Satan was suggesting.
Right.
Oh, so you're saying it's a thing where he's like, okay, if Jesus does this, now he's starting to listen to me a bit, and I can kind of keep ramping it up until I can really start doing some damage.
Because
it's just getting a little foot in the door.
Yeah. Because we are supposed to flee temptation, and that's what we're told we're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's funny because the more I've read my Bible and stuff, like I've always known ever since I was a child that Satan was the bad guy, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Like for lack of like a more concise definition, the bad guy. Mm-hmm. But everything I learn about this guy is just makes him even more and more just despicable and just slimy in my head, like just the way he does this stuff. I mean,
Scripture even has a nickname for him, the Tempter, right? And Jesus taught us how to pray. Pray in this way: lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. So the two are together.
Yeah.
We don't want to be put in a situation where a temptation is strong and it would overwhelm us and we would do something wrong. So pray that will not happen, and that we will be delivered from the one who wants us to do wrong, which is the evil one.
And a couple other names too. I think this is important too. Is the roaring lion? They call him the roaring lion.
I think I have that in here somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and they call him the thief. And we.
What's the temptation of a roaring lion? I mean,
it's not a temptation. He's trying to destroy you.
Satan is trying to frighten you like a roaring lion.
I don't think he was specifically talking about temptation in that, but I do have something here.
But this is who we're talking about. So we want to have all the information.
The first time he shows up in Scripture, he's disguised, right? He's disguised as a serpent, and he's also pretending to be mistaken. I'm confused here. Are you not supposed to eat from any of these trees in the garden? Which obviously it was only one tree that was prohibited from being appropriated as food, and Satan knew that, but he was pretending to be a mistaken questioner to draw Eve into a conversation. Oh no, you can eat from any tree you want except this one.
Well, trying to trick too at the same time, a trickster.
He's deceptive, and he's smart. He's
super smart.
He knows how to get in your head. He knows where your buttons can be pushed to get you to do things. It's just best to really be vigilant in avoiding temptation.
This is off topic, but I am curious now. If God created a perfect world, why was the devil in it?
Good question. You could program your computer to say nice things about you, right? You would at 6 a.m. I want the voice on my computer say, "Oh, Matt, you are such a wonderful person."
I would never hear that.
But if you program your computer to say that, would you feel blessed? Would you feel like the computer really loved you? No. So in order to create a world where love is possible, God did create a world that has free will, so people are able to choose to follow God or not. Same is true of the angels.
So is that what, in that way, makes it perfect? Or made it perfect at the time?
It makes it better than perfect. So, I love C.S. Lewis.
Okay.
C.S. Lewis has the book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
I've read that, yeah.
Right. And the witch knew the deep magic from the dawn of time would be that he could, that Aslan could substitute himself for Edmund, who was the witch wanted to kill. So the lion allowed the witch to kill Aslan, thinking, I've got the deep magic from the dawn of time, I'll just go kill Edmund too. But what she didn't know was the deeper magic from before the dawn of time, right? Which Aslan knew that when the willing substitute would sacrifice himself, for the process of death would reverse itself, and Aslan would come back to life. Okay, so it's analogous to Christianity, of course, and Satan thinking I can usurp the position of God and be the control of this universe. I'd probably be better at it than God. I'll go do this, was actually a way to bring about a better view of God. If in other words, if man had gone on never sinning, and paradise was blossoming all over the world because we took the prototype of Eden, the garden, and we made the world like that, that would be great. But you know what wouldn't happen? Jesus wouldn't have come. God wouldn't have become a man to show his grace and his love and his mercy. You know, so actually the devil's tactics to try and usurp things, usurp ownership of the world, backfires, because now Jesus gets the glory. We see how wonderful, complex God's mercy and love are. We get a better view. So the devil's tactics always backfire because God is many steps ahead of him. I mean, it just is. So to God want a perfect world God created, to make that world be an actual world where people could choose to love God and honor God and glorify God. There has to be a choice. Satan, of course, made the wrong choice. He opted out of God's plan. And
my thought too, I've never thought on that too, is maybe the devil asked God if he could go to the garden, and because you know how the devil asked
about
Job, and said, hey, the only reason why he serves you is because you bless him. And so maybe the devil asked God. We don't know because the Bible doesn't tell us this, but this is the maybe. What
we do know is on day 6, everything God made, it was very good.
We do know that,
including the angels.
Right,
were very good. But then sometime in the future.
Okay, after you said that, I think I'm understanding your point now. Where he created it good, it was up to them to decide if they wanted to keep it that way. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah,
because it's saying like a third.
Sort of.
It says like a third of the angels.
Yeah, a third of the angels opted out of God's.
So they obviously did have
with
at least some kind of free will there in doing that.
And now they are locked in. The angelic choice to follow God or not was a one-time opt-in or opt-out. Right? Now, Adam and Eve were created good. They loved God, and Satan knew how to turn their goodness against them. Right? So Eve, being a good person, would want to straighten out this poor confused serpent.
Yeah. Okay.
And once Satan opened that door and Eve started talking with him, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that she would be fooled into it. Anybody would.
Yeah. I was going to say that was also something I was just kind of thinking about it recently. Just food for thought, I suppose. I was like, I suppose another reason that, or maybe the reason or whatever, that God decided to leave us around, and not just immediately destroy us as soon as we decided we weren't going to be with him, I mean, to be honest with you, if I was God, I think I would have done that, been like, oh, these people immediately turn me, first chance I get, no, I'm going to start over. But I almost think that, I mean, it almost makes more sense to me now to think about, like, okay, well, it can make you infinitely more, like, glorified in that extent, where you can see your people, your creations, fighting so hard to stay with you and overcome so many things for your name and for your glory. I think that actually does, like, in the process, also accomplish his goal of being glorified, which he should be, because again, he's kept us around in a world where he's in control.
I think if you go back into the mind of God before creation, why did he create? He didn't need to create. He was perfect anyway. He had his fellowship within the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. He created to be a blessing to something else. And so he created the world, and giving the world that choice, or giving people the choice of passing the test or not. God knew that if they didn't pass the test, then, I mean, he planned at some point to allow the fall to happen, and if they didn't pass the test, he would then
Separate the wheat from the chaff.
show his love by becoming the Savior. I mean, the promise of the gospel was right there when they fell. They had a conversation with God, very, very compassionately. God came and talked to them. Why are you naked? Why are you hiding? And he knew the answer, but they needed to have that process of talking with God. God imposed consequences on their choices, and promised that, and he didn't give a opportunity for the serpent to repent. He condemned him, but for the
wasn't he already condemned before creation?
Yeah,
or
he just
was it
said
the serpent
he just
specifically.
he
like
said
the animal.
He said, because you've done this, you're going to lose your legs, slither on the ground, and get dust in your face. Crawl around the dust. You'll be a creeping thing. He demoted him, the serpent, and that there will be a seed of the woman who will crush the head of the seed of the serpent. And the seed of the serpent would strike the heel. That's in Genesis 3.
But you will crush his head.
Right. So there would be a deadly blow of the serpent biting the heel of the seed of the woman, and the seed of the woman would crush the head of the seed of the serpent.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the early promise of the gospel.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
I think this is something that we can look at as this is the first part of the war that we see between the devil and God.
Spiritual warfare.
This is the first time we actually see spiritual warfare. It starts in the Garden of Eden, because the devil is doing what he's doing, trying to make God's creation fall, and he's already been cast out. Him and a third of the angels are being cast out of heaven. So they went somewhere.
Don't think that was when they're cast out, though.
It wasn't when they were cast out?
I don't think so.
Was it before that?
No,
the fall,
at the time of Job, they had access to heaven, and they came before God in his court and said, what about Job?
Wait, didn't Satan himself come to talk to God?
Yeah.
During that
So
time?
when did
so
they
wouldn't
get-
that mean then that the angels were also with him at that time?
The angels were allowed to come and talk to God.
So when did they get cast out? When have they been thrown down? I guess that's the thing that
I always thought it was just before creation even started.
That's
I
what
could
I
be wrong,
thought
though.
too.
I'm not sure the Bible's clear on that.
I don't think it is either, but maybe maybe the devil made an appointment and went up and talked to him and asked him a question. I mean, it's kind of a silly thing, but maybe.
I don't
know.
Well, in some ways, you could say that the casting down may have happened at the fall, because Adam was to take dominion. He was to subdue the earth. And as image of God, he's supposed to dwell in the earth, be fruitful and multiply, and basically take care of everything. He was the one in charge. Mankind was in charge. He abdicated that. When he failed the test, Satan became in charge.
Well, that's true. Question though is that I completely agree with you, but was the devil already the devil when he was the snake, or was he? Because it seems to me that he was wicked at that point, trying to trick Eve.
The devil fell before Adam and Eve fell.
Yeah, I was about to say,
That's
I
what
don't
makes
think
sense
there's
to me.
any way to interpret this. I'm looking at Genesis 3 right now. I don't think there's any way to interpret this other than him maliciously trying to...
Yep, it was very malicious and trying to usurp Adam's position.
Because when Adam fell, that's when the devil was able to take dominion over the earth. Because that's...
Yeah, the devil has the dominion that
okay,
Adam
yeah.
was supposed to have taken. Mankind was
Correct.
supposed to have taken it.
Right. But so therefore that war, the spiritual war that we first see, started in the garden. It might have started before that.
It started before that.
We just don't know.
At the same time, though, I would also say, when you can look at the world nowadays, two countries form and they may hate each other, but there's not a war between them until something happens. Maybe
True.
they invade or something. So I would say that I'm sure it's possible that Satan and all the angels fell and were in hell, and they obviously hate God,
Right.
but they haven't started anything yet because it was, I don't know, it seems like there was nothing to start until this point when they kick it off.
In a weird way, everything was very good, including Satan, on day 6. Everything was very good.
What, because, would you say that's because he kickstarted the gospel, I
Nope.
suppose?
I would say that everything he made was very good, and in order for the world and its history to be very good, there needs to be people that are not just automatically programmed to love God, but they actually need to love God.
Right.
So there's there in the nature of that, there must be an opportunity to love God or not.
Okay.
Now Satan at some point led a rebellion of angels, thinking he lifted himself up in arrogance, thinking he could do better than God or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. God gave the angels a one-time choice: opt in, opt out. And a third of them apparently opted in with Satan and opted out with God. And so they were then corrupted in their nature. They were no longer very good. That opt out came with the corruption. Now they're evil, and now they're usurping the authority of Adam, the dominion of Adam and Eve.
Right. But the thing though is, I think that the day 6 means that it was good for Earth and the stuff that God created in the earth.
Everything He made. He
Right,
made
but not the angels, because they're not of this world. But everything else, maybe.
No, they're of creation.
They are created. They are created.
He created the heavens and the earth.
Well, I would honestly say it's the thing that we were talking about before, where everything He made started out initially good.
True.
It was I don't know. Now that I've had this conversation, I kind of think that He gave the angels a freedom of their own to decide.
Yeah, if God created them evil, then everything wasn't very good.
Right, but He didn't create them evil. But they probably fell. They had to have fallen before Eve fell and Adam.
Correct.
So therefore, maybe day 6 they were still evil and they still fell and they still.
No, day 6 it was declared everything He made was very good. He made the angels.
Well, I mean,
He did make the angels, but it doesn't mean that
everything He made was very good, is what the text says.
Couldn't you say that?
Everything was
that like, I mean, God loves every human He makes as well. I don't necessarily.
Angels are not image of God.
Well, yeah, so I'd argue that we might even be above angels in that extent.
In some way, we will judge angels.
That's what I've read.
But what I'm thinking is, like, He obviously sends us to hell if we don't match the requirements and stuff, and He made us good and in His image to begin with. I mean, I don't know, that's just what I'm thinking with the angels as well.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, I mean, I feel like we might be getting a bit off topic here.
Not necessarily. Honestly, this plays right into temptation. The whole design of Satan is to get mankind to reject God. That's ultimately what's going on, and to worship Satan and the governmental authorities that be instead, right? In a very subtle way, Satan being in control of governments of the world, mankind's almost worshiping themselves. We can solve our problems. It's all political. We'll just do the thing and
sign the bill.
It'll be great, right? And that's a lie. This world cannot work and function, and people cannot live appropriately unless God's on the throne, right? And there's a war going on in the heavenlies right now between the forces of God and good and Satan and evil,
right?
And that's going on. It's playing out on earth in terms of governmental and cultural developments and things that are influenced by Satan.
I think that's honestly a good segue here into. See, I keep saying the word segue. I want to think of other words to say.
Transition.
Transition. Yeah, that's another good one. All right, I think that's a good transition, just so I can change it up a little bit here. To another question you have here. What seems to be Satan's purpose for tempting you, specifically, or you in general, like on a world scale?
Oh,
or
that's
do
a
we
great
mean,
question.
or we can even mean people in like general.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
It can be either individual or people in general.
Because I mean, if you think about it, some people will say on YouTube, "Oh, the devil came to me and is tempting me," or whatever of that nature, and then I always
people on YouTube say that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, they do sometimes. I mean, I've read nonsense, and
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, okay.
and
No, I
you know, so I mean, I've heard all kinds of nonsense on YouTube, and the thing is, I'm thinking to myself, you think of yourself so highly that the devil would come to you of all people and try to tempt you. And I'm not trying to say, oh, well, they're not important or this or that, but of all the people that the devil would go to, why would the devil go to them? Why wouldn't the devil go to somebody of more significance or what?
Yeah,
Because he's
like,
not
I mean,
omnipresent though, because he can only be one place at one time. So my thinking is,
I could be wrong on this, but the only time so far, at least, that I've read in the Bible of the devil himself tempting someone was when it was of extreme absolute importance, such
Right.
as Jesus himself
right?
and Judas.
He brought himself. He brought the big guns. That's,
Yeah.
that's what he did.
He brought himself because he's like, if you have to do the job, get it done right.
Right,
You know.
Peter.
So
He
tries
also
to
went
get
after
himself.
Peter, and then he also
He did go after Peter.
Yeah, he's remember how Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan."
Oh, that. Oh, I thought he was being a bit fictitious, or
I
not
don't know.
fictitious, but
Figurative.
figurative. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, that actually, I could see that though.
Yeah, you might
And
be right.
Judas, and Judas too.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, and the people I immediately thought of were Jesus, and the guy that betrayed Jesus,
Right.
that started the whole thing to literally kill
Well,
God.
the serpent in the garden was also identified as Satan.
Oh, that's fair too. Yeah.
So,
also,
Satan is the primary evil spirit.
he kind of reminds
Right.
me of like the final.
But he has a
boss in
host
games or
of
something.
other demons that he commands, and they
That's his kingdom.
they manipulate on earth and trying to get people to reject God.
Right. And they
See-
also don't necessarily like try to get people to reject God. They may not let God's will be known to them, or they may just make them busy with other things, or they may, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
have you guys? I remember reading a book in like an English class in high school. I don't remember the title, but it was a book where it was like a demon writing to his nephew or something like that, like his demon nephew. Or something
Screwtape
like
Letters.
That
This is C.S.
sounds
Lewis.
right. Yeah.
It's another C.S. Lewis.
Yeah, and it's a thing where he like in these letters, quote unquote. Obviously, he's talking to his nephew, and he's like, it's with great dismay that I've learned that your person you've been assigned has become a Christian or something like that. But he's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it because there's still a lot of stuff you can do. And and one of the big things he brings up, I remember, is distraction. He's like, get them distracted
Exactly.
in anything and everything you
Yep.
possibly can.
The overarching plan is that the people wouldn't follow God, or they would reject Him, and the subtle little things that He does add up to.
Right. And going with what you guys are just saying there, we can look at the news and we can look at everything going on around us and all the things that are anti-Christian and all the things that are problems. It can really rile people up and get them distracted off of so many things that they go chasing and trying to fix these problems, when in reality, as you were saying today in the message, you need to speak truth, because all we can do is speak truth. We can't go go out there and protest.
We can't outsmart the devil. We can't outgun the government.
No.
You know, there's not. We are completely relegated to one powerful method, and that is preaching the truth.
Correct.
Speaking the truth, and then God's Spirit. That truth is powerful. God's word is from Him, and it carries the power. So the gospel message is powerful to save lives, to change lives.
Right, because if we're so focused on things going on around us trying to fix them, then we lose our purpose on trying to speak truth, change lives, and help win souls.
So look at you tying in previous topics too.
In baseball ease, Satan's trying to get us to swing at a pitch in the dirt. Right?
What is it?
In baseball ease,
Yep.
Satan tries to get us to swing at a pitch in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Was it? Now you can hit that anyways. I believe in you. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking kind of in line with that. it's mainly to like disrupt and undermine God's influence, to try and make him out like, again, with distractions and stuff, that's saying, oh yeah, you don't really care about what God thinks, you care more about this random TV show that's on or something like that or whatever, or like the games you're playing and stuff like that, just, again, literally anything and everything that will get you distracted. And yeah,
a lot of what you see coming out of the culture is influenced by
right.
demonic.
What does Toby Mac say in his one song? Do you know what I'm talking about? The Toby Mac song.
I know
I'm
Toby
a little
Mac,
kid in
I
a
know.
3-ring circus or something. Basically he's so excited. Everything's pulling him to go this way and that way and do this and do that.
You know what the song's called?
Hmm?
You know what the song's called?
I don't remember what it's called.
Let me see here.
I'm a little kid in a 3-ring
Do a search
circus.
Toby Mac 3-ring circus and maybe
Oh yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, that might work.
Lose My Soul.
That's exactly what it is with Mandisa.
Kirk Franklin and Mandisa.
Yeah.
Would you look at that? Oh, and now we got a commercial for the PGA. Never mind. We'll forget that for now. Oh, well. I will check that out. I assume he's a Christian guy.
Yeah.
Singing them. Actually,
Man,
no, I've
he
heard
is-
some of his songs.
Yeah. He just showed our age. Now, he just showed our age right there. At least he showed my age. So basically, Toby Mac back in the day was part of the DC Talk thing. And so that's back in the day. But now...
Define the day.
Back in the day, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s. So he was back... And they made their thing with Jesus Freak and a whole bunch of other things, different songs, and it was like really cool Christian rock. It was like really edgy. Nowadays it's like, yeah, whatever. But back then it was like the thing, and but he still sings, and they all sing in their own different groups now or whatever it is. But
yeah, I saw songs as late as like 2018 or something on there.
Yeah, so it was just basically, but it's so true though that we are little kids in 3-ring circuses, and we're all distracted by all these different things. We're tempted by who knows what, because every person is tempted not by the same stuff, by something else.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say honestly, I'll keep it vague for the camera, but I've had a very rough last 2 weeks, and one thing that I noticed too was in my just kind of depression slump, I've hardly been able to do much anything, and as a result, I've just been kind of binge gaming for a while now.
Because you wanted to keep your mind
self-medicating.
I want to keep my mind off of the problem that I initially I still really don't think I should be that concerned about.
You're self-medicating with video games.
Yeah, and I'll admit it. Yes, I am, and as a result of that, I will look back. I'll look at my little schedule or something like that. That thankfully the Lord did not decide I needed to do that much this week, so I did have a more relaxed week to deal with this. But all I had on there was kind of like show up to work, podcast stuff here, go to church, read Bible every day.
Right.
And that read Bible thing was read every single day, and I'm like, oh crap.
Right. Well, but that situation that you had, I mean, it not only there was temptation and not really say so much temptation, but there was distraction that just completely threw you for a loop, and it made you maybe not be able to concentrate on what you could do.
That's a good point, Paul. There's a tendency we all have to just do our own thing, whatever is our comfort, retreat into video games or whatever it is. When we talk about temptation, it seems like there is a particular emphasis of the devil or the tempting agent to get into our will and present us with a choice, God or not, or right or wrong. You want to do that. So there is a focus into how are you going to use your time? Video game or Bible reading, or witnessing to a friend, or going down and getting some ice cream. Not that those things are wrong, but when you're consciously weighing things out, that's when temptation, I think, matters. It becomes.
I have a solution to the problem though about the ice cream and the friend. You can just invite the friend to go get ice cream together and then talk. But
Yep.
however,
Yeah,
I mean,
once in a
yes.
while, once in a while, I'll have something I want to do, and someone I should go visit in the hospital.
Right.
And or I'm writing my tithe check, and I could put in this amount or that amount. And there's a point at which I make a decision. Am I making my decision to be a blessing to God, following what He wants to do, or am I excusing myself to do what I want to do? Right. And so there is a struggle in temptation. And it seems like now you can float through life and not worry about those things and just default into your comfort zone, whatever that is. But at some point there's a conscious decision you make. Mm-hmm. And it may be a small thing, but it's something that if you do it this way, it will honor God. If you do it this way, it may not.
I think, Pastor John and Matt, I think a lot of people are in this world that they live in that the devils don't care, the devil or anything doesn't care about them because they're of no threat to them or their kingdom, because they don't care anything about the ways of God. Yeah. They don't look for they mock, they do all, so therefore they don't even touch them, they don't worry about them.
He attacks less, where he's strategic. Yeah, that's a good point, because the devil is a limited being. God is infinite, infinitely wise, and good and strong and all that. Yeah. The devil can't be in more than one place at a time.
Correct.
He's got a bunch of agents that he can send or whatever.
But he's also got a limited amount of those.
And he's also limited in his own intelligence, his own abilities, and he sees the world as a chessboard, and he wants to go and apply his dirty tactics where they'll do the most good for him.
Right.
So yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. I think that is true.
Yeah, I mean, also, if they're not following God at all, there's little to no need. You can just kind of put them on autopilot for a while when you, I do think that's correct, just based off of personal experience, too, because I've felt in times in my life where I really think I'm beginning to make progress and stuff. The stuff I'm fighting against, I literally just feel is so much worse than it is if I'm just kind of coasting and just kind of pushing God out of my mind a bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a lot in some scenarios.
I think also some people too, that are out there, they may have like OCD or ADHD, and they have other medical problems that their brain doesn't work the way other brains do, and they also may have an issue with themselves. And following God or doing whatever it is they're doing, and they're so distracted with other problems that are little to us, but to them it's huge.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I do have ADHD myself. It's which is why I'm really happy a lot of college classes are moving away from like tests and stuff, is because you sit a massive 100-question test in front of me, I'm zoning out 10% of the way through. That's just what happens. And it's definitely a struggle. It's hard to even just pay attention in church for a while too, but you sometimes all I need to do is
as two pastors here say, Matt, sometimes some pastors can be really boring, and you may
that's
sleep
true too,
yeah. So I'm just saying.
Well, no, I'll say the pastor at our church I think is great in terms of keeping people from sleeping, because there's first off, in all seriousness, his messages are really good. I like him a lot. His name's Pastor Sizowskis, if you want to look him up. He's pretty great. But he also loves to really abruptly change the volume he's at, too. He gets excited about the stuff he's teaching. And, for one, I want a pastor that gets excited about the stuff they're teaching, because that, in turn, makes me excited and want to pay attention more. However, he goes, you can tell, too, when he's about to finish as well, because he starts getting really quieter, leans up into the mic a little bit and starts talking kind of like this or whatever. He's really locking in to get the final point across. But there's times, towards the beginning or in the middle, he'll just be talking normally, all of a sudden he'll just start screaming at the top of his lungs, banging on the lectern and stuff like that, just out of nowhere. It is the... And that helps
people pay attention.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's because I can be sitting there just kind of staring at the Bible on my phone and see a notification, and I click on it, and all of a sudden I'm in a different app entirely or something, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there, and it's like a gunshot went off or something. You're like, oh shit, he's still here. It's like, oh, he's still here talking. My bad.
Right. And the thing is so. everybody in an audience isn't everybody in an audience. Everybody in an audience is running on their own different kind of brain.
Yeah,
And,
we're not all as sadly we're not all as interested in the topic as the person that researched it a bunch and has a lot to say does.
Right. Or I mean, maybe the person presenting it may not say it in a way that translates it to every different mind either. I mean, like what you were saying about your pastor, he's like up and down, down and up, and with the volumes, and sometimes I've been to a lot of places too that
Can I interrupt for half a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
My dad has started wearing hearing aids within the past few years, and he says he just hates the way that our pastor does. He says he loves the messages, hates the presentation, because he's just sitting there with his remote, constantly turning them up and down and up and down for like an hour straight. And he's like, the battery dies on this thing so fast. Every time I go into
So
church.
he only preaches for a full hour? That's it?
I'd say about an hour, yeah. Well, I mean, for one thing, with our church kind of being like half under construction, and like us being packed into a gym for 2 services like a day, he kind of has to get creative, and so we're doing 2 services instead of 1.
Does it get smelly in there with all those people?
I don't think, no.
It's
I'm
a
just
gym.
wondering. Well, it's a gym, I know, but
Oh,
they're all packed.
Yeah, I mean,
You haven't noticed it?
well, I mean,
That's a good thing.
most of the time people like when they show up to church, they do the bare minimum of making themselves be somewhat presentable. Like I mean, even if I like.
Roll out of bed.
Yeah, roll out of bed. I'll slap some like deodorant on, throw in a polo or something like that,
Yeah.
and show up. Like I think the people
But it could be
that
hot
show
and
up to our
sweaty if
church-
there's no air conditioner or
Well,
something.
that's the good thing is that the gym for some reason is like more well air conditioned than like anywhere else in the entire building, which is perfect because
Yeah.
that room I swear gets down like 60 degrees or something like that, like today.
Wow.
Which
we
was
would have some
great.
of our little old ladies shivering.
Well, not when they're packed in with so many people so close to them.
Yeah.
On that note, I think we're capping it off here. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching. If you have any ideas for a title for this, where it's just the
in the
3
link.
of us, let us know. Put some comments in or something. And if it's the people on Rumble that keep asking me to message you on Telegram, buzz off. See ya.